Hey everybody, I'm going to show you how to make a small parametric table here where you could change the height, width, depth, material, and so forth on the fly like you would to any other piece of furniture, door, window, or so forth. Um, so I started Revit, and this is the splash screen here, and you could see that it opens up, and you can open up a new project model here, or this is where you can get to the family editor. So we're going to make a new family. We're going to make something similar to this. This family comes as part of the Revit software. I'm going to make something similar to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say under the families category, I'm going to say new. And the first thing Revit asks you to do is assign it to a category. What I mean by that is what type of family are you making? Are you making a door? Are you making something for parking? Are you making a plant or plumbing fixture or so forth? What are you making? What type of family is this? So the first thing Revit wants you to do is assign a category to what you're about to make. So if you're making a door, you might pick the door category. If you're making a light fixture based on the wall that's supported on the wall, you might use this one. If you're making a plumbing fixture and so forth. So uh, choosing the right category will allow your family to act like Revit wants it to act when you use it. So, for example, if you're making a door, you probably want to start with the door category so that later on, when you go tag all your doors with your door tags, you can automatically have that included in your door schedule. So that's why it's important to pick the right category. Now, you might not always know what category it belongs to. So in that case, you would just pick a generic model, and then later on you can reassign it to a category if you choose to. You don't have to, but if you choose to. So, technically this might be categorized as furniture, but I'm just going to call it a generic model, floor-based, because I want it to attach to a floor. If I don't have a floor in my model, it will not let me put this particular piece of furniture in there. That goes with all sorts of other families. If you're doing a light fixture, for example, and you want it attached to the ceiling, you would use this one. And if there was no ceiling in your project, you wouldn't be able to import that light fixture that you just made. If you just use this generic one right here that just says light fixture, then you'll be able to put that in your model anywhere, and you have to keep moving it around where you want it. It's kind of important to kind of think about what it is that you're making and how you want to assign it. So for now, I'm just going to call it a generic model floor base so it will attach to a floor. I'm going to click open, and here's my family editor. So here's my sample floor that Revit starts me off with. Okay, cool. And I'm drawing in floor plan view right now. I'm going to be switching between floor plan and elevation, sometimes 3D. These two lines right here, these are what we call our reference planes. And I'm going to make a couple of those. Probably I'm going to make 4 of those that are going to allow me to constrain the width and the depth of my table. So on the Create tab, I'm going to go over here to Reference Plane, and you can see there the shortcut is RP next to the name, RP for short. So I like to use shortcuts, RP to make a reference plane. And just like we do in regular Revit, we just kind of draw the shape of the reference planes about what we want. I'm going to have a rectangular top in here. So there's the 4 reference planes that are going to constrain my top. Now I'm going to hit Escape. And the first thing I want to do is add my dimensions, which will allow me to... So the first thing I want to do is create my dimensions, which will allow me to make my parameters for adjusting the width and the depth of my table on the fly. So dimensions, DI for short. I'm going to click here, here, and here, and then equal those out. And I'm going to do the same thing here, here, and here. Equal those out. And that will that will allow my tabletop to adjust equally in both directions. So now I'm going to put one more over here, which I'm going to change to my width. I'm sorry, my depth. And this one over here, I'm going to use for my depth. So right now, hit Escape. Right now, these are just a couple of dimensions. I need to add my labels and parameters to them. So if I select my dimension once, this is going to be the width. So select my dimension, you'll notice the ribbon changes right here, and you want to create a parameter. So in the parameter box, I'm going to type my name here, and this is going to be width. This will control the width of the table. Typically, you want to leave it on type because I'm going to have different sizes of this table when I'm done, and the different sizes are different types of this table. If I leave it on instance, when I change the width, it's only going to change the width of this one instance of the table. So I like to leave it on type, and it's grouped under dimensions. So I'm going to click OK, and then you'll see that now the width parameter in my properties later on is going to control the width. This one I'm going to click, create a new parameter, and this is going to be the depth front to back. Leave it on type, click OK, and there's so far my two parameters. So now I can drag this around, and you'll see that these two horizontal lines are equally changing, and these two vertical lines are equally changing as I bring them in and out. So that's called flexing the model, when you're actually just testing to make sure that your dimensions are equaling things and things are locked and so forth. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to draw my geometry. So I'm going to go to the Create tab, and you can see that these are all the different shapes and forms that I can make. If you want to cut a hole in something, you'll make a void. If you want to make like a box or something, that would be my extrusion, which is similar to SketchUp, right? You make a closed polyline or a closed shape, and then you just stretch it up or down. So I'm going to make an extrusion, and I want to make a rectangular shape in here. So rather than pick to draw 4 lines, just go up here to your draw tool, pick rectangle, and go from here to here. And now your tabletop has been started as a rectangle. You don't have to lock these because they automatically snap to the reference planes. So I'm going to finish my extrusion, my profile, I should say. Now, if I go to a 3D view, and I'm going to tile these side by side, so WT for short. All right, so there's my tabletop in 3D view. If I look at it in elevation view from the front, right now, it's sitting on the ground, which is my reference starting point, sitting on the ground. So now what I want to do is I want to give it some height so I can set the distance how far I want it to be off the floor. Tabletops are usually anywhere from 32 to 36 inches from the floor to the top. So what I'm going to do is make another reference plane, RP, just draw one up here, and then I'm going to add a new dimension to that, DI, click, click. Okay, there's my dimensions. Now I want to add a parameter to that, and I'm going to call it height parameter. So I'm going to hit escape a couple times, pick my dimension, come up here, call it height, and click OK. So now I have a parameter that's going to control the height. Now I just got to get this front of the tabletop up here. So there are a couple different ways you could do this. You can just stretch this up. Okay, and again, you don't need to lock it because it's automatically snaps to this, but you could lock it if you want. Now, the thickness of my tabletop is, 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches, depending on what it is that you're making. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to control the thickness of this top. I want this to be 1.5 inches thick, but I might want it to be 3/4 of an inch thick. So I'm going to add another dimension and give it another parameter that controls the thickness. So place my dimension, click my dimension, come up here to my create parameter, and I'm going to call this thickness. Click OK. And so let's start testing this out. So rather than dragging this up and down, oops, look at that, it didn't go. So this is why we drag. So I must have been wrong. I think you have to lock this, my bad. That means I might have to do it over here, but we'll see. This is why we test things. Okay, so I'm going to test the thickness and the height of all this stuff. So I'm going to come over here to my families and categories parameter. Oops, sorry. I'm going to come over here to my family types. This is my box that controls the depth that I just made, the height, the thickness, and the width that you would see in any project. So I want to try the thickness first, and I want my thickness of my top to be 1.5 inches thick. Click apply. Beautiful, works good. Maybe I want it to be 3 inches thick. Hit apply. Nice, that's what I want. So that one's working. Change that to 1.5 inches. Hit apply. Let's try the height. So instead of 4'3", maybe I want that to be 3 feet. Click apply or hit enter. And look at that, so it's moving my top up or down. Maybe I want it to be 32 inches, a little bit lower for my handicapped friends. 32 inches, click apply, perfect. So that's what's supposed to be happening. Let's try the width and the depth over here now. So let's try and change the depth to, I don't know, 5 feet and see if it adjusts equally in all directions. Beautiful. Maybe I want it to be 2 feet deep. That one's working, and I'm going to change the width to maybe 6 feet. Hit apply. Perfect. So hopefully you could see how my geometry or my extrusion here is controlled by these dimensions, which I then turned into parameters. So far, so good. I have my tabletop rectangular. Now what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing? I think I need some legs on here. Okay, so now I'm going to make some just simple round legs. Go back to the Create tab. And again, these are going to be extrusions. So I'm going to hit Extrusion. And I'm just going to make a simple circle anywhere here. And maybe I want that to be, I don't know, inch and a half radius. Okay. So there's the shape that's starting to represent my circle. Now, before I hit finish, what I want to do is I want to place it from the edge. So I'm going to hit dimension and place a couple dimensions on here. And I'm going to snap from there to there. And I'm going to snap from here vertically. And I suppose maybe I want that circle to be 4 inches from the edge in both directions. So I'm going to pick the circle, which activates my temporary dimensions, and I'm going to change that to 4 inches. I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to change that to 4 inches. And now you can see that this is 4 inches. Now what I want to do is I want to lock this. Okay. So if you pick that dimension, hit the lock, pick that dimension, hit the lock, and that will constrain and move this leg as the edges move and keep it 4 inches apart. Don't forget to lock that. So I'm going to hit finish, the check mark here. There's my extrusion, and you can see here now that it's too short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and attach this. Drag it up, it'll snap. Hit the lock, and now it's attached. So let's just flex it and try. So if I go back to my parameters box, and if I change the height 4 feet high, that leg should go with it. Boom. Okay. Nice. So now what I want to do is I'm going to mirror this. Pick it, pick your mirror line. Then I'm going to hold the control key, mirror both of these, this way. Okay, now the problem here is that this one is locked to the edges. These are not. So let's see what happens when I do my parameter width. Let's see if my legs go with it. I'll change it to 5 feet, hit apply. Oh, look at that, they worked. I didn't expect that to work. It must be reading this first one that I set up. All right, let's try the depth, 4 feet. All right, seems to be working. Okay, so let's say you wanted to change the thickness of these legs from 3 inches to like 6 inches. So what you got to do is you got to edit the extrusion. So in order to do that, double click on it. That gets you into edit mode. Everything is grayed out. And then up here, you can just click that and change this to be whatever radius you want. Maybe I want it to be a 3-inch radius, which means it'll be a 6-inch leg. Okay, click finish. The problem is, look at the other ones. So now you just got to mirror those over. So rather than mirroring those over, I'm just going to undo that, leave it the way it is, just for the sake of time. All right, so there you go. One thing is I have not saved this yet, so I might have lost all this work. So let me just go save, Control S. And you'll notice that it's saving it as a family with a .rfa at the last at the end. Your project files are RVT files. Okay, so I'm going to call this practice table. Okay, and stored in my documents. Always take a look at where you're storing these things to. Hit save. Okay, cool. So now it's saved. So we made a simple table with a rectangular top. But I think I want this to be a little bit thicker. I don't like that 1.5 inch thickness. So I'm going to come up here to my parameters box. Change the thickness here to 3 inches thick. Hit apply. Oh, look at that. Those 3 legs did not go with the thickness. So you got to drag this one down, lock it, drag this one down, lock it, drag this one behind it down, lock it. Okay. So let's try that again as I change the thickness. Say I want to make it 6 inches thick and make sure my legs adjust. Perfect. Good. Okay. All right. So there is my table. Now, one last thing. we need to get this thing into a project so that we can use it and see how it looks. So I'm going to start a new project. So File, New Project. I'll start with the architectural template and click OK. So we have a blank project right here. I'm going to go back to any one of my table files here. I'm going to hit Load into Project. So if I hit Load into Project, I only have one project open. And you can see here, it's loading my practice table. The problem is, look at that circle. I cannot place it. Why is that? Why is it not letting me place this in a new project? I'm going to hit Escape. Do I need to draw some walls? Okay, let's go back and try that. Load into project. All right, it looks like it's already there. So I'm going to place it. Practice table. Here it is here. Nope, still won't let me do it. Ah, because I need floors. I need a floor, not walls. If you remember when I started that table project, I said to make a generic model hosted to the floor. So I need a quick floor in here. So floor, I can get rid of these walls because I don't need those. Floor, architectural. I'll come over here and just make a simple rectangular floor. Finish that. And then go to the architecture tab, component and place, because it's already loaded in. There it is. There it is. Look at that. There's my table. Let me close this out. Let me go to my 3D view. There's my table that I made. Look at that. Let's try and change the sizes of it. So if I click it, go over here to edit type. Now this is where all those dimensions and parameters come in. So you could see here that here's where I could change the width. Let's see what happens if I make it bigger than the floor. Okay, cool. Let's say I make it 12 feet. Oh, look at that. Okay, maybe I want it to be, I don't know, 6 feet wide. And then maybe I want it to be, I don't know, 10 feet tall. And then maybe I want it to be 12 inches thick. Look at that. Click OK. So here's where your parameters come into play. When you change the sizes of your doors, the sizes of your windows, and all that stuff, that comes directly from the dimensions that you make in the family and the parameters and flexibility that you assign to it. So look at that. There's your first table. I'm trying to be excited because I remember 15 years ago, this is one of the first things I made to learn how to use Revit and how to make custom families. So in one of my next videos, I'm going to show you how to make what's called an in-place family, where you can be in a project and make something in place rather than going out to the family editor. Maybe like a receptionist countertop or something like that, or a receptionist desk or something like that. So I hope you enjoyed that. Think about what we did. Maybe you can just go back through it and watch it instead of trying to click, drag, click, drag, click, drag. And let me know what you think. Awesome. Thank you.